Community High School District 303 Board of Education, a regular meeting is now in session. Would you all please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item, Mr. White, would you call the roll, please?
Alessandrini.
Here.
Hill. Here. Oheimer.
Here.
O'Neill.
Here.
Rui.
Here.
Wrigley.
Here.
Howard.
Here. We have the necessary quorum. We will continue with the agenda, and that next item being approval of minutes. Those minutes being the Labor Management Relations Committee meeting of September 4th, Student Achievement Committee meeting of September 18th, special closed board meeting of September 22nd, regular board meeting of September 22nd, closed session of the regular board meeting of September 22nd, special board meeting of October 20th, and the closed session of the special board meeting of October 20th. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Mrs. Hoheimer.
Second.
Second. We have a motion by Mrs. Hoheimer. We have a second by Mr. O'Neill. Are there questions, comments, or discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, Mr. White, would you call the roll, please?
Oheimer.
Aye.
O'Neill.
Aye.
Alessandrini.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Rui.
Aye.
Wrigley.
Aye.
Howard.
Aye. Motion carries. Minutes stand approved as presented. Next item, as is our tradition, we have communications, public comments, and participation. We'll begin with board applause, and how about we start with you, Mr. Alessandrini, please?
I'd like to bring everyone's attention, believe it or not, it is time to start the planning for the Pekin Insurance Holiday Tournament, which will be held December 29th, 30th, and 31st. The committee met this evening. They do a great deal of work, and they're led by our athletic director, Rick Kestner. Chairman of the committee is Skip Schermerhorn. Jay Holloman from Pekin Insurance as title sponsor. Kent Ayers, Steve Clark, Jeff Taylor, Larry Leitner, Neil Stemper, Pat Flanagan, and Jeff Walraven serve out the committee. We have a full 16-field tournament team group, and we look forward to a great 3 days of basketball.
Thank you, Mr. Alessandrini. That was a great board applause. How about you, Mr. O'Neill?
I would like to congratulate Bob Dicey's auto students that competed in the ICC Power Show, several of them placing. First place went to Austin Dumont in the Spark Plug Challenge. Second place of Blake Markham in the Spark Plug Challenge. First place multimeter challenge was Mark Kemper. Second place of multimeter challenge to Austin Daniels. Congratulations to all of them.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill. The great thing about that board applause is that sometime or another, all of us need those people. So I'm glad you raised that one. How about you, Mr. Hill?
Yes, I'd like to congratulate Eric Ewan, all the speech team assistants, and last year's team on earning significant recognition at the National Speech and Debate Association. Our chapter is ranked among the top 10% of schools nationwide and has again been bestowed membership to the association's 100 Club. So congratulations to the speech team and all the teachers involved.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. How about you, Mrs. Hoheimer?
For the second consecutive year and the 7th time in the last 8 years, our Lady Dragons have won the Middle Illini Conference Golf Championship Thursday at Metamora Fields, defeating runner-up Morton by 11 shots. Good job.
Thank you, Mrs. Hoheimer. How about you, Mr. Wrigley?
My board applause this evening is for two Pekin High School seniors, also golfers. Senior Drake Bouchon took 6th in the Class 3A state final as an individual, and senior Madison Hill took 5th in the Class AA state final as an individual. Congratulations to those Dragons.
Thank you, Mr. Wrigley. How about you, Mr. Rui?
Keeping with the golf theme, I'd like to recognize the fact that the boys golf team also won the IHSA Regional Championship again this year as well. So, had a great year for golf. Pekin High School.
Thank you, Mr. Rui. Well, I'll stay with that golf theme, and 2/3 of mine got taken by someone who will remain anonymous, but I do want to point out that Coach Neville has been inducted into the Illinois Coaches Association Golf Hall of Fame. And that's kind of a nice thing. Thank you all for your board applause.
Mr. Howard, I have one more. I didn't want to say it because somebody may have it, but our cross-country teams competed this last weekend at regionals. The boys took 5th place and the girls took 6th, so they advanced to sectional. Individual, Colton Dunkelbarger, a freshman, placed 11th in the boys.
Thank you, Mr. Alessandrini. These board applauses show that we have much to be proud of at Pekin High, in and out of the classroom, and I'm glad the board is willing to share them. We'll continue something I know that none of you know. Emily Pendleton is not here tonight. She's in Bloomington Normal. She's playing volleyball against Richwoods as we speak. And I wanted to commend her because earlier in the week I got an email from Mr. Norman, the principal at Altman School, and he was thanking and recognizing the PCHS student athletes who came and read to his students. And one of those athletes was Emily Pendleton. So, Emily has a very, very capable stand-in tonight. Her name is Abby Carroll, and she is the vice president, and she's going to just tell us everything that's going on. Right, Abby?
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes.
I am Abby Carroll, and I am our Student Council Vice President at Pekin. And Emily, like you said, is at volleyball tonight. Go Dragons. So we had our homecoming dance, and that was very successful. There was a great turnout as usual, and our theme this year was A Night in Paris, and everybody loved all the decorations and everything. We had the parade as well, the homecoming parade, and it was chilly. It was more like the Winter Wonderland parade, but it was also very fun, and we had a lot of participants this year. We had the class games as well, along with homecoming, and that went very well. And there was a great turnout. The seniors won, technically, but seniors always win. We kind of got creamed. We have Hopewell coming up at the end of this week, which is Friday. It's on Halloween this year. And that's where we meet with the other area student councils, and we're very much looking forward to that. And then we are starting our new committees for student council this week, and those will be the canned food drive, and we will be working on the life skills party, and that's always one of our favorites to do. So we're very excited for this last 9 weeks.
Abby, I'm always amazed at the ease with which you people get up there and run through that litany of activities, and it just underscores how much you're into it.
Yes,
I mean, you just
we
rattle
definitely
it right
enjoy
off.
it.
And I want to tell you, Mr. Hill and I rode in that parade. It was colder than bejeebers, and he blocked the wind for me. Otherwise, I would have had pneumonia. And then these two were in a car, and I didn't look at them.
He was cold.
I
I was not.
I'm our Miss Marigold this year, and I had to ride on the top of a convertible, and I had this outfit picked out with a coat, like a big white coat for a Winter Wonderland parade. I wore it to the homecoming parade. Very chilly.
And you were warm, weren't you?
Yes, I felt great up there.
That's called planning.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you for your report.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone in the audience tonight who would like to address the board on a non-agenda item? If it's a non-agenda item, you may speak to us now. If it's an agenda item, you gotta speak to us when it comes up. No takers? Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is monthly warrants.
Mr. President, I move for the payment of monthly warrants in the amount of $1,966,226.61 per summary information found on page 48, and board bills starting on page 77, and manual checks starting on page 114 of the supported material.
Thank you, Mr. Alessandrini. You know I always appreciate that. Do we have a second?
So,
Thank you, Mrs. Holmeyer. Questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, Mr. White, would you call the roll, please?
Alessandrini,
Aye.
Hoheimer,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
O'Neill,
Aye.
Rui,
Aye.
Wrigley,
Aye.
Howard.
Aye. Motion carries. Monthly warrants will be paid. You'll find bank balances on page 50, district investments on page 51, medical care report on page 52, and financial statement on page 53, and all of those are as of September the 30th. You'll find board bills on page 77 and manual checks on page 114. Next item. We have a request for a closed session regarding the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity, collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees, and the setting of a price for sale or lease of property owned by the public body. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Mrs. Hoheimer. Second by Mr. O'Neill. Motion by Mrs. Hoheimer, second by Mr. O'Neill. Mr. White, are you ready to call the roll? Please do so.
Hoheimer,
Aye.
O'Neill,
Aye.
Alessandrini,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Rui,
Aye.
Wrigley,
Aye.
Howard.
Aye. Motion carries. At the close of the closed session, the board will return to the boardroom and continue with board business at that time. The record indicate the board is back in open session at 7:24 p.m. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Before I seek a motion, is there any particular item on that consent agenda that a board member would like to have a separate vote on? If so, speak now. Hearing none, I would be seeking a motion to recommend board approval of consent agenda item 5.1.1 as presented, including the personnel report pending background checks as necessary. Do we have such a motion?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Hoheimer. Thank you, Mr. Wrigley. Motion by Mrs. Hoheimer, second by Mr. Wrigley, to approve the consent agenda as presented. Are there questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, Mr. White, would you call the roll, please?
Hoheimer,
Aye.
Wrigley,
Aye.
Alessandrini,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
O'Neill,
Aye.
Rui,
Aye.
Howard.
Aye. Motion carries. Consent agenda approved as presented. Next item, intergovernmental agreement for library services. Mr. DePatis.
Last month, Mr. Brooks, who's in the audience tonight, came and spoke about the intergovernmental agreement, and it was decided that when we put on this next agenda to have an intergovernmental agreement between Pekin High School and the Pekin Public Library as presented, and you can see the materials on page 193 of your agenda.
He's seeking a motion for approval of the intergovernmental agreement for library services between the Pekin Public Library, Pekin Public Schools, District 108, and Pekin Community High School, District 303, as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion is presented.
Thank you, Mr. Wrigley. Second, Mr. Alessandrini. Motion by Mr. Wrigley, second by Mr. Alessandrini. Are there questions, comments, or discussion? I want to point out that Mr. Brooks is here, just hoping you'll ask him something.
Well, I just wanted to point out to Mr. Brooks that on behalf of myself, I personally appreciate the efforts that you guys do down at the library. And I look forward, hopefully, to the passing of this motion for the benefits of both the students in our sister District 108 and our district here can experience. So I appreciate that.
Further comments or questions? Hearing none, Mr. White, are you ready to call the roll, please?
Wrigley,
Aye.
Alessandrini,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Hoheimer,
Aye.
O'Neill,
Aye.
Rui,
Aye.
Howard.
Aye. Motion carries. Agreement approved as presented. Thank you, Mr. Brooks, for coming tonight. Next item, request approval of Health, Life, Safety Amendment number 15. Mr. DePatis?
Page 197, you'll see the Health, Life, Safety Amendment that has been submitted by our architect, and it needs board approval so we can submit it on to the state board for their final approval so we can do those projects and be able to expend health, life, safety money out of that fund to do those projects.
Thank you, Mr. DePatis. At this point, I'd be looking for a motion to recommend approval of Health, Life, Safety Amendment number 15 as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wrigley. Motion by Mr. O'Neill, second by Mr. Wrigley for approval of Health, Life, Safety as presented. Are there questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none, Mr. White, we're keeping you busy.
O'Neill.
Aye.
Wrigley.
Aye.
Alessandrini.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hoheimer.
Aye.
Rui.
Aye.
Howard.
Aye. Motion carries. Health, Life, Safety Amendment approved as presented. Next item, we have bond underwriting services. Mr. DePatis.
We previously, for the last bond issue we had for Health, Life, Safety, used Stiefel Nicholas and Company for the underwriting services. We went out for RFP at that time. It is not required under law that we go out for RFP every time for bond writing services, underwriting services, and it's the administration's recommendation that we continue to use Stiefel Nicholas when the event that we have the Amendment 15 items approved by the state board, we can move forward with the underwriting services to issuing additional bonds as necessary.
So at this point, I'd be looking for a motion to recommend board approval for use of the underwriting services of Stiefel Nicholas and Company Incorporated for the issuance of additional health, life, safety bonds. Do I have such a motion? Thank you, Mrs. Hoheimer. Do we have a second?
Second.
That was a tough one.
Mr. Allison, read it.
Mr. Alessandrini. Motion by Mrs. Hoheimer, second by Mr. Alessandrini for bond underwriting as presented. Is there questions, comments, or discussion? So, Mr. DePatis, if I understood you right, by staying with this firm, it'll save us some time in the process because certain ground items have been already established.
Exactly.
And then even though that we live in a competitive world and all these people want to do our bonds, at some point in time when there's a good clean breaking point, then we can go back to a competitive situation
Yes.
where we're not restricted by time restraints.
Correct.
Do I grasp that correctly?
Yes, you do.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Mr. White, would you call the roll, please?
Hoheimer.
Aye.
Alessandrini.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
O'Neill.
Aye.
Rui.
Aye.
Wrigley.
Aye.
Howard.
Aye. Motion carries. Bond underwriting services continued. Thank you. Next item, request for permission to dispose of surplus equipment and/or supplies. Mr. DePatis.
There are some things in the culinary arts area that need to be disposed of. Some of that came from a health inspection that came through some items that need to be no longer in use. And I'm requesting approval to dispose of the surplus equipment or supplies.
He's seeking a motion for board approval to dispose of surplus equipment and/or supplies. Do we have such a motion?
Second.
Mrs. Hoheimer, second by Mr. Alessandrini. Motion by Mrs. Hoheimer, second by Mr. Alessandrini.
It's got any like surplus chocolate cake or anything?
No, I don't think so.
Strawberry pie.
Well, I was concerned because some of us board members have been around here for quite a while. None of us, right?
No, sir.
Okay, good. Any questions or comments
The
beyond silliness?
the equipment and supplies is limited to culinary arts. There's nothing else anywhere.
That I'm not aware of. It's just the culinary arts stuff that I'm.
Okay.
Further questions, comments? Hearing none, Mr. White, would you call the roll, please?
Hoheimer.
Aye.
Alessandrini.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
O'Neill.
Aye.
Rui.
Aye.
Wrigley.
Aye.
Howard.
Aye. Motion carries. Sell that surplus equipment. Next item, reports. We begin with our traditional resignations.
And dispose of the equipment.
Oh, I'm sorry, dispose of.
Unless you want to buy it.
No, I don't want to buy it. I'm sorry, I misread. Thank you, Mr. Hill. You are good at taking care of me. Like you kept me warm in the parade. You know, blocking the wind. It was cold. Okay, give me a break. All right, report, Mr. Hill, resignations.
Yes, we have 3 resignations to report. Brian Cox, Maintenance Supervisor for Building and Grounds Department, effective October 24th, 2014. Rachel Haynes, Personal Assistant for the Special Education Department, effective October 3rd, 2014. And Jennifer Travis, Teacher for the Math Department, effective October 10th, 2014.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Make that a matter of record. Next item, Policy Committee, Mrs. Holheimer.
We did not meet this month, but we will be meeting in November.
Sure makes for a quick report, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you. How about Operations and Maintenance, Mr. Rui?
We did meet this evening, and we previously asked Mrs. Schaefer and Mr. Bonnet and Mr. DePayes to provide us a direction relative to projects that need to be completed here at the school over the next several years, which they did, and did a very nice job of that and presented that in an order to us that was somewhat based on need and other on improvements. We are still waiting to understand where we're going to find with health, life safety money. There's been a new submission for close to $10 million, at $10 million. So we believe we're going to hear from that within the next month and a half. And once we do, then all of this will come clearer as to what steps, our next steps are going to be in regards to district money. Going to be guarded until we find out what the situation is with that health, life safety grant application. As I said, we think we'll hear within a month and a half, and then at that time, I think that it'll be easier for us to give a clear direction as to what will be completed this year and the following year, and what our long-range goals are. What's nice about what they did was that they created the plan, although fluid, based on what might happen tomorrow. You never know what might happen tomorrow that is going to take funds away to deal with. But they've really looked at the situation and decided these are the directions we need to go to keep the district in good working order, the facilities in good working order. And so there may be other items that come down the road that are unforeseen, or new items for improvement down the road. But at this point, we've got kind of a plan in place to keep the district operating efficiently and appropriately for the next several years. I welcome any other comment from other board members that are on the O&M if they'd like to add anything.
The only thing I would add to Mr. Rui's report is just to underscore the importance of what was item 5.3 on the agenda, the Health, Life, Safety Amendment number 15. That is truly what determines the priority of the capital expenditures we put into the operations of this district. So hopefully it all gets approved as we hope, and I appreciate your hard work for that operation maintenance staff.
Further comments? The thing that always amazes me about the process is how interwoven everything is, and everything impacts everything else. It's quite a complicated process, and I thank everyone for their hard work and due diligence. Next item, Labor Management Relations Committee, Mr. DePayes.
We met on October 2nd, excuse me, and had some discussion about the posting of LMRC minutes as far as how public those would be with negotiations coming up this year. Also talked about credit recovery program, which we're trying to work on with students to try and keep them up on track, and how that affects staff and the dealings of the day, as well as making sure we had some discussion relative to the negotiations as they're moving forward.
How about Student Achievement Committee while you're at it?
Student Achievement, we met on the 16th and continued our discussion there about issues dealing with student achievement, obviously, but working toward what we can try and do to help students as far as giving them the opportunity to get electives in their schedule, as well as being able to get the courses that they want, whether they be AP courses or vocational CTE department courses. And that was the major crux of the entire discussion for that committee.
And why not finish out with the Illinois school report card?
The last page of your materials, you'll see the at a glance school report card. You'll notice that it looks considerably different than what it has in the past. Some of the information, if you look in the upper right-hand corner of the first page, that information there on school environment is actually not our information. It's just there for visual purposes. What I would like to do is this report card actually is online now, and it's much more interactive than it has been in the past. What I would like to do is next month at the November meeting is to take the opportunity to go through that report card and put it up on the screen so you can kind of take a look and see what that looks like interactively.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. DePatis. Future agenda items. Is there something a board member would like to see on a future agenda? If so, now is your time to speak out. Hearing none, we'll move on to announcements by the president. First item I have is congratulations to the following board members who were recognized as part of the ISB's 2013-2014 Master Board Member Awards Program at the Central Illinois Valley Division Fall Dinner Meeting on Wednesday, October 1st at Morton High School. And those two individuals are Mr. Alessandrini and myself. Next item, Pekin High delegation to the 2014 Joint Annual ISB, IASA, IASBO III Conference, November 21st through 23rd. We'll be leaving for Chicago Friday morning on the 21st. A packet containing a complete itinerary and support information will be provided to each attendee before his departure, his or her departure. Room confirmations at the Hyatt Regency Chicago have already been distributed via email. Looking ahead, the IASB Central Illinois Valley Division Winter Governing Meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, December 3rd, 2014 at Jonas Seafood House in East Peoria. Dinner begins at 6:30 with other details to follow. Next item, for those interested, please complete the form provided for the season basketball tickets and return them to Mr. White at the conclusion of this meeting if possible. Parking passes will be issued to all who return the form. The next regular meeting of the Board of Education is scheduled for Monday, November 24th at 6:30 p.m. in this boardroom. Next item and last item on this agenda is I have a request for closed session regarding the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. Seeking a motion for closed session. Thank you, Mrs. Hoheim. Thank you, Mr. Hill. Mr. White, would you call the roll, please?
Hoheimer.
Aye.
Hill. Aye. Alessandrini.
Aye.
O'Neill.
Aye.
Rui.
Aye.
Wrigley.
Aye.
Howard.
Aye. Motion carries. At the conclusion of this particular closed session, there will be no further board business conducted. So for all intents and purposes, this official meeting of the board is hereby adjourned until our next regular meeting. Thank you all for your attendance.